meeting of the Whangamata Community Board, and hopefully this will be our last, but you never know what's around the corner. So we will start with in attendance, and we have Jennifer can see who's in attendance and record those appropriately. Gary will be slightly late, but should be joining us very shortly. Any apologies? Apology for Gary for lateness. Someone like to move that?
Happy to move that way. Gary.
Moved by Terry, seconded by
Dave.
Dave. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Items on the agenda. Are there any items not on the agenda?
No.
Appears not. We'll move on. Items, conflicts of interest, item 1.4. Are there any conflicts of interest?
No.
No conflicts declared. So move on to 1.5. So these are the minutes of the board meeting, 18th of February. And someone like to move those before we open the discussion?
I'll move them.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Kay. And Gary has joined the meeting at 10:14. Welcome back, Gary. Now we're just going through the minutes for confirmation. So are there any discussion the minutes of the 18th of February?
I just got a couple of points just to raise. I'm just for clarification, because it's been a long time since February, since the last time we spoke. Yeah, Dave, you raised an issue around the crash rail out by the transfer station. Has NZTA come back to you on that one?
No, I've heard nothing since then. They said that they thought that the planning for it would be through by April, but of course with the lockdown that may have affected that. But I've heard nothing since that I reported last time, Terry. Okay.
And the other one, obviously, but I think Ross might have heard, but the skate park final works. We'll hear what that's most probably later on in the meeting, but I just thought I'd raise that as an issue that was raised then. But apart from that, I'm good.
You need an answer on that one at the moment, Ken?
No, if it's for later, Ross, it's fine.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. No. Any other items people want to discuss from the minutes? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item 2.1, Whangamata Boardwalk Extension Project. And this is probably the third or fourth time the board has discussed this item. So we have some recommendations from staff there. You'll see that there are 3 different options under item 5. There's a 5, there's a 5A, and there's a 5B. To put it in order before we start discussion, would someone like to move a recommendation?
I'd like to move that we do the 1 to Graham Street.
Is that option 5?
Yep.
Okay, and so you're recommending we do 5 and delete 5A and 5B. Someone like to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay, Tamsin second that. Thank you. So we have now recommendations 1 through 8, and I will open it for discussion.
I think Ross is going to speak to this, but it'd be good if him just give us an update on the couple of information that we received recently from Mr. Black, etc. And I saw Ross's explanation come through, and I thought that was a very good explanation on where we are today. Have you got any more to add to that, Ross?
Yeah, well, thanks, Terry. Yeah, I mean, I guess, there are a lot of things going on with the project, but as far as the process goes, I think the board and I guess the staff as well we've followed it to the letter. Basically, notification. There's two elements of notification. One's under the Local Government Act. One's under the RMA. The decision today will not preempt or exclude any of those process, well, particularly the RMA process, from carrying on if it needs to. So that's quite clear. My initial advice at the moment is, currently we haven't confirmed the details that it doesn't need resource consent at this stage. However, we will formally apply for a certificate of compliance to get that formal opinion from our planning department, and that'll be a independent commissioner decision on that one. So basically, you know, this project has been well canvassed now, and I think there's been quite a lot of substantial consultation for the board to consider and make a decision.
I'll just back you up there, Ross. We've had a lot of information over the previous months, and a lot of it was quite passionate and detailed. Some of it was for, some of it was against. We've got to just balance everything we've heard up in our mind and make a call. So that's where we're at today. Anyone else will want to make a comment? But as I see it, what has been recommended by Kay and seconded by Tamsin is that essentially what we're saying is to staff that we only want to proceed along the Esplanade Drive at this stage. We do not want any construction to happen in the dunes area, that part be put on hold until other considerations such as the annual plan, where there are a lot of submissions regarding next year's budget. Also need to consider the impact of COVID-19. So I think that's, while it might be hard to read that there, we're saying Esplanade Drive only, do not do anything at this stage on the dunes section, and also do a trial section so that before construction starts we can see what the success rate is of the boardwalks of that 10-metre trial, and also go ahead and do whatever else is required in terms of certificate of compliance or RMA or whatever else might be needed, talking to DOC. So do all of that before you do anything, but when you do something, only do the Esplanade Drive at this stage. So that's where I see things at the moment. I'd like to hear from others.
Just a quick question through to Ross. The impact reports that we're looking to get, have we got some done, or is there some to be done?
Yeah, thanks through the chair, Terry. We've got 2 done already, the archaeological report and the ecological report. We have a coastal report coming from Jim Dam, which will cover off the coastal process as part of things. It won't be a very long one, but it will be included. So those are the main reports. The thing is, when we go down the track into more detail, we'll be able to provide that information to planners for their consideration. They may come back and say there is another report needed, but those are the key ones, and they're the ones that DOC are after as well. So the ecological report in its draft form recommends the alignment, close, the existing alignment, but it talks about the impacts of the dunes. So you've got it all there from the ecological point of view for people to look at, and that's on our website as well.
It's Gary here. The one thing that concerns me, I can see, I was the one that suggested the Esplanade proposal initially, but and I'll just remain neutral on that because there's been a huge amount of submissions at the annual plan about the boardwalk from all around the district, not just us, but the whole Thames-Coromandel district, that everything like that should be put on hold until we sort our finances out. The other thing is that I foresee huge legal battles if we go anywhere near the dunes, and we could be talking a huge amount of money we'll have in legal costs. So I think we've got to take all that into account too, because there certainly seems to be pretty valid arguments being raised, and Derek Nolan, the QC, set some things out pretty carefully. So I just think that if you want to do that bit up to Graham Street, that's fair enough. But I think we're not going to be very popular if we try and do anything more, and it's going to be very expensive. Thanks.
So any other comments? There's one further, and I'll put this to Kay and Tamsin, whether they'd consider a further amendment, which I suggested number 9, which is to defer the construction of the concrete footpath along Esplanade Drive for future consideration. So defer the construction of the concrete footpath.
I would defer it into the footpath budget, not further discussion. Just defer it to the footpath budget
For 2021.
Yeah, or whenever it's funding's there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's in the right place. You know.
Yeah, it's sort of ancillary to the boardwalk. It's not really an integral part of the boardwalk, but if there, there wasn't a lot of public comment or either way on it. I don't think it's something people are pressing hard for, but if there's merit later on, it could be considered as part of that. But rather than taking up the boardwalk budget, I'd prefer that it be put to one side. So, Kay and Tamsin, happy with that amendment?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't.
So if there are no other comments, I'll put 1 to 9 in total, moved by Kay and seconded by Tamsin. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. And I just ask if staff could put out some clear, plain English communications regarding the decision along the lines that we're not going anywhere near the dunes. It's only the Esplanade Drive that we're talking about. Just to clarify that, because the dunes seem to be the part that had most of the discussion around, and there didn't seem to be the same concerns raised regarding the Esplanade Drive. But so we just want to make that clear that we're not talking about going into the dunes. That's been put on hold.
Yeah, that's clear. I'll work with comms on that one.
Okay, thank you, Ross.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for that. It's been a long process. Thank you, Ross, for all the hard work you've got put in, and you've obviously got more to come. But
can I ask that if Ross is leaving the meeting, that he just gives us an update on the skate park, so he's done and dusted?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Through you, Chair.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Yep. So we've actually started back up again, which is really good. Yesterday was the first day that the contractors come back on site. Yesterday they did the surface or the resurfacing spraying work on the original skate bowl, and they've got work scheduled for 5 more concrete pours until basically a final handover next week on Wednesday, subject to weather. So that's really good news. So everything should be completed by next Wednesday.
Oh, fantastic. Look, Ross, I think it's a real asset that what's done there. It's been fantastic. Everybody's going to be excited. Is there any sort of opening planned or any sort of moment in history to mark the moment?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I guess we could work that through. I think that's probably a good idea. We just need to work out the logistics around no more than 10 people. so I'll talk to Eileen about that. But I think if the board's keen to do something, I think it'll be worthwhile.
I'd like to see Terry take the first run down it on his skateboard.
I've got enough insurance for me. At any rate, Ross, it could move out a little bit. It doesn't have to happen next week, but I just thought some sort of, thanks to the council for doing the business and get some good kudos out of it. It'd be good.
Yeah, good idea. I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ross, just through the chair, have you had anything to do with the new service station construction?
No, I haven't there at all, Dave.
Okay. I just understand that they're talking about opening it next Monday. I just wondered if you'd heard confirmation.
No, Eileen may have.
I've heard it's going to open then too. Waitomo's sort of done it all by themselves, but yeah, I don't know how to recognise that, but it's an asset to town. So yeah, think about it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for that, Ross. So moving on to 2.2, and the report is there. It's fairly self-explanatory, and we're looking to two recommendations there. One, receive the report, and two, we need to nominate a member of the board to represent us on the Southeast Coastal Panel. So I will put the matter in order by moving it. Someone like to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, didn't quite catch the, okay, so do we have anyone putting their hand up who wants to be nominated for that?
I would like to be the representative.
Tamsin, anyone else interested?
Ken, I spoke to Tamsin earlier this morning, and I've got no problem with her doing it as she's got an interest in it. I presume there is only one. When I looked at Tairua's, I see that they were having extra members on there. Is there no room for two from Whangamata?
Well, my concern there is that the more people we have from the community boards on it, the less we'll have from the community. So, you know, a little bit, and ultimately decision will be made about the membership of it. But, you know, I'm concerned that there are two from Tairua Pawanui, but we'll see whether that gets through. But I don't think we need to or want to have two on there.
Okay, well, I support Tamsin then for that position.
Maybe we could have a backup. Maybe Dave could be a backup if Tamsin's unable to go.
And I'd be happy to do that.
It sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, with Dave to provide backup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can speak to this quickly, we had a speak with Amon yesterday about the panels and the setup of them. There was some discussion, obviously. He did say that they weren't forged in stone, and that's why the discussion about Pānui having a representative and Tairua have a representative. They felt that their coastal areas had their own quirks and understandings. So I think that was the reason that that was allowed. You could get the situation here that someone from Mana might stick up and say that we want to be on it. So again, Amon's not shy to discuss that and come up with an answer. The other thing that was key to the discussion was that what did that entail? So the selection will take place on the 23rd of June by a committee at council. The start date will be July, and they're going to be frequency meetings monthly or bi-monthly for a year. And there will be attendance required, and there will be some remuneration for that attendance. But if you don't attend on a regular basis, they will be discussed about changing the person on the panel. So having a backup is most probably a good idea that you can put that up front now. And yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Good morning, everyone. That was a very good summary, Jerry. Just letting you know I am here if there's any additional questions.
Anyone got any questions for Amon?
Just to let Amon know that we've had several people put their hands up in town here to be in the public part of the forum, so it's good to hear the people coming forward. And not too sure, Amon, have you had any other interest from outside the areas?
Yeah, Mercury Bay, little bit of interest, had a meeting there with someone who's on the fence about nominating. Up Port Jackson as well. There's the guy there. He reckons there's a few people that need the nomination forms. So I think we're going to get good candidates come through.
Yeah, right.
And Amon, I take it that the two councillors are sort of de facto members of the panel, are they?
Yeah, the way we've structured it is we're allowing for our councillors to be observers on the panels. So that way they can get an understanding of what's going on, but also allow the communities to have their discussions without compromising their involvement later, which will be as councillors approving the plans towards the end.
Okay, so they're there to observe, but they don't have voting rights, no.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, so we have recommendations there, moved and seconded. So all those in favour?
Aye.
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 Against? Carried. Well done, and thank you, Eamon.
Thank you.
Moving on to 3.1, the commercial operators. So we've got quite a list there. Does someone want to put it in order by moving those, and then we'll go through and discuss?
I'll move it, Terry. Garrett. Ken.
That's okay, Dave.
Sorry.
Someone like to second it?
I'll second that.
Okay, Tamsin. Okay, so we'll move through one by one and see what discussions or points people have. So the first one we have is the surf school number 8.
I'd just like to comment on that. Move to the other side of the tree and the shower.
Sorry, what was that? I didn't hear that, sorry.
I think the beach access 8 should be removed. Take out the 8 and put it the other side of the tree and the shower. There's plenty of grass the other side for that surf school.
So that would be access 7.
Yeah, between 7 and 8. Because what happens at access 8 is that the public have to walk around that surf school equipment to get to the showers. Now, I know they say they only start on a little bit through the summer. It just got spread. The tables were used for drying the wetsuits, and the public were walking around them to try and get that shower. I think it could go the other side of the shower and the tree.
Eileen, you got any comment here?
Have we had complaints about that, Eileen? It's Gary here. I can't hear you, Eileen.
We had complaints with the previous operators there, but I haven't had any complaints since the new operators have taken over.
Eileen, Ken here. How would you feel if they moved slightly northwards, more to between 7 and 8, and clear of access?
I'm not sure. That's why I was hoping Derek was in here. I don't know if they can get their trailer up there. That would be the only thing, would be their access.
Derek is available. He's on the call.
Oh.
Listening to your wisdom, Eileen.
I guess it would be a matter of just like, yeah, can they get their trailer up there? I guess if they can pull it up at 8, I think there's flat enough land there. I'm just trying to visualize it myself, but yeah, there is plenty of room.
Yeah, I think Kay's got a good point though, that the public access to the access ways is what it's all about. So if there's a problem of people accessing past them, to relocate them to an area, if it can be to the side, it seems to be a more user-friendly approach to this.
And there's plenty of grass.
I think though it's important that we're acting on official complaints. So if we haven't received any complaints about them, then it's just anecdotal and that's not really fair to shift them.
Well, I think the public
Can't hear, sorry.
I think the public have just got so used to something being there all the time that what is the point of complaining anyway, because they don't move. There's no movement, there's no difference. It just to me seems to be the wrong place. Either move the shower or move the surf school. I mean, it's about, 30 metres, not even that, the other side of the tree.
It might be 30 metres, but I do think that it would have an impact on their business. They do get quite a good amount of advertising from having their trailer there. So it would be detrimental to their business to move them to 7. And we use Access 8 probably at least 4 times a week, and I have never had any issue with them spreading out.
I think you'll find
Another thing I think why they like Access 8 is because they've got good sight out to their surface, but I think the discussion needs to be had with them, and we have not had any complaints with these new operators.
Is it just about the trailer movement? They can still look to see is about where the trailer's sighted? Is this the issue?
Just the space that is taken over on that sort of esplanade area to get to the showers.
Well, you'll know that there's been
I think we need to make I think to move this forward, we need to actually have the discussion with them. I mean, at the moment, Access 8 is where the surf school has been forever and a day. And we did have those complaints, and that was, like I say, the previous operator, not these guys. And I just think we need to have the discussion with them. If it is feasible to move them, there could be other reasons that we don't know about as to why Beach Access 7 is not viable for them.
I don't think they need to go along to Beach Access 7, but we're just saying moving it slightly. But I think if you have those discussions, Eileen, you also need to discuss with them the boardwalk, because they need to be aware that that's going to be an issue that they need to work around as well. So have those discussions with them regarding potentially moving a little bit, and also taking into account the boardwalk.
Okay, so so the board section then is Beach Access 8 if there is a reason why they can't go further along.
Yeah.
We have a hand up, I think.
Derek.
Yeah, I'm just, thanks Ken, through the chair. I'm just looking at an aerial photo, and it's quite clear that the trailer is parked almost in line with Graham Street. So I think that's a key point to why they're keen for that spot. Obviously, as you're driving along, you can obviously see the trailer, see the surf school, and that to move that south or north would obviously be potentially detrimental, as has been pointed out. So that's why they're probably keen for that location.
Well, I think it's important that Eileen has
I can't hear that person.
I think it's important that Eileen does have a discussion with them, because if the boardwalk is going along there, then what's going to happen then? I mean, people go to the surf school because they're at the beach. I can't see that somebody's going to drive along the road and see the trailer and say, oh, I'll go and have a surf. They're not going to do that. They know they're there.
Yes, through the chair, we always meet with our licensees and work up areas where they should be and where they shouldn't be. So any rules raised through this forum, we could obviously pass that on and work with the licensee on that.
Okay, I think we can leave it to the staff to have those discussions. We're not going to get down to the nitty gritty of moving 2 metres here or 2 metres there. We'll let staff have that discussion with them and trust that they'll come up with a solution which isn't going to cause complaints.
Yep.
Okay, happy to move on.
Yep.
Next one, so will be, we don't need to approve the next one because their preference was for where they are. So moving on to Chris Coombe, Access 15.
Good operator, no problem with me.
Yeah, I don't have any problems. Any comments from anyone?
No.
Okay, Chris Coombe's next one.
Ditto.
Same.
Okay, right, who have we got next?
Same.
Georgina's Cafe, that seems to be working well from my perspective. Any comments?
Yeah, Eileen, have you got a comment about this? I've had no issues, but have you?
And I had no complaints, only had feedback about the caravan being there.
Yep.
Okay, we're happy with Georgina. Okay. Next one.
Right, not so good here.
No.
I've been to see these people 3 times in the last year about issues. First of all, on the beach. Second, moving their surf school down the beach where other people normally surf and taking over that. And third, about their mess where they operate on Williamson Park. So, Eileen, you got any comment?
Yeah, we have received complaints from the public as well as from elected members about these operators moving outside of their designated areas and causing issues with pedestrians, etc.
Also, the part where there's shade with barbecue tables.
I can't hear you, sorry.
I was just saying where they actually park and take over is actually where there's quite a nice lot of shade with some nice tables and that used to be used for like just families sitting there. I just think they're in the wrong place. I don't know what anyone else thinks.
Well, it looks to me like there has been a lot of complaints and they get resolved and then they seem to creep back to their old practices again of spreading out beyond where they should. So I'm not sure what the solution is there. They obviously they're a popular operator with the tourists, whether there are going to be many tourists this summer. But
well, I think it's a simple answer. They don't go there.
I think we need to be hugely mindful of the decisions that we're making to impact these operators. They've just gone through probably one of their most troublesome times through the COVID-19 period. And we can't decide to just move them out of their place that they're receiving free advertising and supported by the community.
Well, I think we can if they're
We
not
can.
performing. So this is about discussion about the next 2 years. But I would also understand the fact that it's a business that they're trying to run and we don't want to take that away from them. But operating under a way that can be done and that there's no issues in terms of how they run it like the other concession holders. So I don't know if Eileen needs to go and put the heat on them to say this is okay, but if you start to fall out, that things will change, or maybe relocate them in a slightly better position so that there is those issues. Eileen, can you address this?
Through the chair, can I ask a question, please?
yes, Gary.
If we turn over the page, it seems that the Mario Del Bosco has got 2 other ones, and he's involved in the Whangamata Surf School. So he's got 3. He's involved in 3 that they're applying for. Is that correct?
Correct.
Through the chair, it's Erin here. Hi everyone. Can I ask that Derek please respond to these questions, as Eileen is not involved in terms of the operational side of this. If Derek can perhaps respond to some of the questions that have been raised.
Certainly, no problem, Erin. It's just Eileen is the person who ends up fronting these people, and having her information and understanding of these is really important today for our discussion for the next 2 years.
Oh, I absolutely agree, Terry. She's got encyclopedic knowledge, but I think in terms of how we would deal these questions around perhaps additional conditions on their licenses, that's something that Derek will have to provide some advice on.
Okay, Derek, over to you. What would you be advising to satisfy the community and the operator getting a win-win here?
Well, we'd go out and talk with the operator, identify, look, we've had some issues. The board weren't entirely supportive or unanimous in terms of approval, so you're on watch. Would lay out their site and would take account of some of the comments received just now in terms of making sure that their site does not impinge upon areas where families would like to operate and use, and would use things like what are called like carrots. We use them on sports fields, and they basically slip into the grass. They're a permanent feature they're mowable over, but they're easily identifiable in terms of where the site should be. So it's not like they're going to be slipping outside of their marked area. This is a piece of paraphernalia that remains on site and can't be moved. Kind of hard to describe it unless you've actually seen one, but we'll point that out to the operator, install it, and they must remain within that site and they can't move outside it.
The other area of concern too, Derek, was their signage around town where they put it. There were some rules around that they weren't falling in line with, so note that as well would be good.
Okay, so are they putting it up on things like power poles and stuff like that, or?
Sorry?
Are they putting it up on power poles and public toilets and stuff, are they?
I think it was also about how the distance away from their operation they were supposed to. Eileen knows these rules about this, but it was raised by some people in town about where they were putting the signage and it was out of line where it was supposed to be.
Okay, well, a response with that would be an RFS raised with bylaws, who would then potentially impinge them or remove the signs or have a discussion with them.
Yeah, I think that happened and they did take them away, so but it's just mindful of that has happened in the past.
They keep on, incrementally.
They push the boundaries all the time.
Derek, question, would it be possible, because this is probably the concession which we've had the most issue with, that we went for a 12-month concession with a right or to be considered after 12 months if the operator had been complying as they should have been, rather than going for 2 years?
Yes, that's up to the board's discretion. So what we would do is review. A paper would come back, sometime next year, with a result of how they've fared, if they've had any complaints, etc., and would concentrate rather than on a range of concessionaires or licensees, would just concentrate on this operator. So it's
in this location,
a fairly good approach, Chair, in terms of it doesn't give them the surety of 2 years, and if they've had no issues, then obviously you'd probably like to consider granting them for another year. So it probably keeps them on their toes a little bit.
Yeah, good
how
move.
do other board members feel about that?
I think it's a good move. The other thing also that was raised yesterday at Tairoa Pauanui meeting was the fact that during this 2-year period, some other operator may step up and want to put their name forward, and we felt it was important to allow applications during this time for other operators to put their name forward for the board to consider within the 2-year period, obviously. So I thought it was a good move.
Gary.
Also on that first page, there's a discussion about the yoga classes they run, because, and it said you need a separate permit required. It's on the very first page, but it seems to me that yoga classes, they say a maximum of 25, and I would think that's the case, and it's normally done from 8 to 9 o'clock. You're really saying they need to be more specific. They need to make an application, a separate application for that. But I don't think it really the public much at 8 to 9 in the morning if it's set out that way.
Would just like to separate the activities. And again, if you've got concerns about this operator, it's probably a wise thing to do that, because then they're not, if they're running, say, their yoga classes appropriately, then they're not going to be unfairly impinged if they're not doing their surf school correctly.
Yeah, the two are separate operations, so I'd like to see them being treated as separate applications as well. Tamsin, you had your hand up.
I think just I'll reiterate that I think the decisions that we make need to be demonstrating support to local business through one of the most difficult periods that they've been through. And so I'm not sure coming out with a 12-month approval for this is sending the right message of support for our local business, and ditto for making space for other people to apply for their access. We should always be supporting our local business, existing business first and foremost.
That's all very well, but we still have to look at the operators and what they actually do through the summer. Okay, they start off okay, but then they creep and they extend themselves to the point where the public have to complain. Now, if we don't start listening to the public, the point of doing this.
So what do you want to hear, Ken? You want somebody to move some way or what?
Eileen, have you got your hand up? Did you want to say something?
What I want to say is that it is important, if we're going to do this 12-month thing, that if
terrible.
members get complaints from the public,
We can't hear you, Eileen.
if you're going to do this 12-month thing, I think it's important that if you get complaints from the public to the elected members, you must direct them to load an RFS so that Derek's team have got something in hand to go back with. When we went back to check the RFS system for the complaints for these operators, there were not as many complaints as what we had actually received. So it is imperative that complaints are lodged through the RFS system.
Good point. Okay, we'll take that advice on board. Gary, have you still got your hand up?
No, I haven't, thank you. But I just wonder, what are we going to do about the yoga aspect, which is a bit separate to the others? I don't see that interfering with the public use. They do it in front of our place across the lot from the little lake, and it doesn't seem to affect anyone passing through.
So, Derek, how do we process that? We don't have, do we need to treat that as a separate application?
No, we'll sort that out. It's just a very minor event. And like you say, or has been pointed out, it's relatively minor impact. So that's why treat the two as separate entities. So okay. They'll apply to us, we'll talk to them, and we'll put some restrictions in place, and they'll abide by that, and I'm sure it'll work fine.
But I'd like to move that Derek approach this operator and discuss the issues that were raised today, offer them a 12-month lease concession with rolling on 12 months if there's no issues, and that other operators, nothing to do with this place, but other operators have the right to apply during the 2-year period for a concession.
Okay, there's 2 steps. So the first one is that the operator, or this operator, Surf and Stay, be offered a 12-month concession to be reviewed at the end of the 12 months with a view to extending if no major issues. And the second one is that the board agrees to consider further applications up to 30th of June 2022.
Correct.
Okay, so you're moving that way. I'll second those. Derek?
I object.
Oh, you can vote against them. That's all right.
Through the chair, can I just ask for a point of clarification on that? So does the board, if they vote for this, do they want a paper to come back to them, or do they want officers to make the decision if there's been no issues with the operator?
No, I think you can make that decision, Eric.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
That's my opinion. So somebody else.
Okay, no, I'm happy with that too.
Through the chair, can I just suggest, Jennifer, that we just tighten up that that resolution? You're just kindly typing at the moment a little bit, just to make it clear that the board approves 12 months concession with a, just so it's really clear, because otherwise it still reads it. Yeah, thank you.
12 months.
Yeah, with the right. Yeah, and just kind of make it clear it's around reviewing their compliance with the concession conditions, just to tighten it up a little.
Yeah, I just use this area. I will move it down to the bottom so it is more clear. It's such a long document that I thought we'd just have it up here where we're discussing, but I can bring it all down to the bottom.
Okay, well, while you're tidying that, I'll move that, you've moved it, Terry, and I've seconded it. So we'll have a vote on that one now. So all those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
So you note that was carried. You don't need to note unless. Do you have your vote noted, Tamsin?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I
Okay.
think that we're really demonstrating lack of support for local business.
Okay. That's
Gary,
fine.
so I'm abstaining.
And Gary's abstaining. Okay, carried. And we'll deal with the other point, which is to agree to consider further applications up to 30th of June 2022. What that's saying is there could be operators that haven't come forward yet, or there may be some operators cease business and it allows others to come in over that period. So we're saying that we'll consider any later applications during this period rather than closing it off now. So that was moved by Terry. I'll second that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Recorded against.
Okay.
Just keep it as the same as above. Make
Right.
note of that.
So moving down the list. The next one is Island View Reserve, Beach Access 14.
No, that's Bosco.
Yeah, any comments?
If I could just ask a question, it's Gary here. This person is also involved in the one we've just been dealing with, the New Zealand Surf and Stay Limited, and this is Surfs Up Kayaks Limited, and looks like it's just him for the next two we're considering. Am I correct there?
Yeah, it's all part of the same outfit. Husband.
No,
and
they
wife.
own two separate businesses. One is run by the wife and one is run by the husband.
But the husband and wife work out of the same place.
No, they don't. They work out of two.
Derek, perhaps you could advise us on that rather than members discussing.
They are
Gary's
two separate businesses. So the application has come in by two separate legal entities, but the backing is behind. One person, Morrow Del Bosco, is involved in Surfs Up Kayaks, as they are in New Zealand Surf and Stay Limited as well.
Okay, we're treating them as separate applications. So this one is Access 14. So any comments?
Well, it was just under Island View that I had two issues with for discussion that I spoke to not Del Bosco but his wife about them. So this here is part of the same deal that Derek needs to discuss.
Can I say something?
Okay, go ahead.
I think Eileen has her hand up also.
Oh, Eileen, was it? Sorry. Eileen, did you want to say something?
Again, this operator, I totally support local businesses, but Access 14 is so congested, it's become, in the summer, an absolute nightmare. If you want to go to the beach at 7 o'clock in the morning, you cannot get a pass. They have about 4 vehicles, they have gazebos, they have all their kayaks, they use the beach access down onto the beach, spread their kayaks, and it is so congested with freedom campers. It's becoming a nightmare in the summer. I'm quite happy for local businesses to be everywhere. They've got to abide by the rules. It's a nightmare down there. I'm sorry, I know there's lots of complaints about it, but people get to say, what's the point?
Tamsin?
Have there been any complaints, formal complaints received about this operator, Eileen or Derek?
Through the chair, yes, council bylaws and compliance team have been advised, so that they have operated on several times and gone and talked to the concessionaire regarding access issues and also vehicles on the beach.
I just think
treated just like the other ones. Just talk to them, manage them through it, and hope they performed.
I just think it's an area that until we get the freedom camping sorted out, it's too congested. There are no parks for anyone who wants to go and walk on the beach through the summer. You have to either park by that side street or double park along the that sort of beach access.
Through the chair, can I speak on that, Ken?
Yes, Dave.
I just wondered whether, in fact, this operator could work out of that car park just prior to the beach access, which doesn't get used that much from there. Would that be an alternative? They're still very close to the access area, but it would keep them off the main beach part there.
You mean the wheelchair and pram car park?
Yes.
Yeah. Staff, do you want to comment on that?
That also gets quite busy at peak periods as well, and the intention for that car park is that, as you pointed out, Chair, it's wheelchair accessible and also for families with younger children. So that might give that's not a big car park in itself either.
Could we then limit the vehicles that they're permitted to have?
It's also not an option when they move campers out of there. So I don't see how you can then tell an operator to go and use that car park, because it is too small for the amount of stuff that those guys have.
Or should we limit the amount of equipment and vehicles that they can have there?
I just think Island View should be left just for freedom camping and for the locals or people to walk on the beach. I don't see why it needs an operator there.
Well, it is the closest access to going out to the islands, but Tamsin, you had your hand up next.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to take it down.
Okay, Terry.
Yeah, listening to everybody, I think Dave's got some good points there too. Yeah, I think by them setting up their vehicle, their trailer with their kayaks, and then taking their cars and parking them back down the road because they're not used any time while they're there, might free up a bit of space around there for access to the beach on the left-hand side. And then when we look at later on what we're doing with the revamp around that area, maybe give us some consideration to that in the future. But I do think that Derek needs to talk to these people on the same lines as they're talking to Williamson Park, and just to make sure they understand what's going on and try and working with us through these busy periods to make things more usable.
We don't need to go so far as to just do a 12-month. You're happy for that discussion to take place?
Well, I think if we do it at Williamson Park, the message will be there, loud and clear. What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, quite happy with that recommendation, Terry. So
the other point with freedom camping to remember is that a lot of the vehicles that are there are probably the ones with the sort of the slider vans that the overseas tourists tend to use. They're not going to be there this summer, I don't think. So the parking may not be quite so stressed as it has been in previous summers, but that will change into the future. But I think if Derek has discussions with the operators and just outlines the concerns, and we just keep an eye on it as it goes forward. Everyone happy with that?
Yep, we should move forward on that and see how it goes.
Okay, the next one is Beach Road Reserve.
I see this is declined.
Declined because they've...
Well, we've all...
it's actually, Chair, we've declined their requested site, but recommending approval of, declined a new site which they want, and we're recommending approval of their current existing site.
Okay.
So they currently operate near the slipway, and they've requested a new site closer to the wharf.
So where's the slipway?
Sorry, I beg your pardon. Or was that aimed at me? I couldn't hear that.
Sorry. So they've applied for Beach Road. We were saying we just approved the existing site at the slipway. Is that what you're saying?
That's the advice, yes.
Yeah. Anyone disagree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, looks like that's fine. And we've got a late application there for a the coffee and food truck. Given that the board's supportive of applications being received throughout the next 2 years, is there any reason why people wouldn't want that considered?
I think it needs to be considered.
I'm supportive of the application.
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise.
Staff have any concerns if the food and coffee truck operated from Beach Road and Island View Reserve?
Yeah, like I say, I haven't had a good chance to have a proper look at this one. My concerns might be around, for instance, Beach Road, if they have a generator in their van, and the generator is going to heat food and run the coffee machine, and we may get complaints from nearby neighbours. And Island View, if you've got the concerns regarding congestion at that site, even though it is a pretty iconic location and possibly far away from local dairies, etc., then the same concerns about the kayak operator in terms of the congestion of the car park might be applicable to this location as well.
I assume that they would be on the actual reserve itself, not down by the beach.
Yeah.
I can't comment because I can't remember exactly what the application has. So I haven't had a chance to look through it properly. And
it's quite a big area for car parking that around there anyway. It's a lot bigger than Island View.
So if that's the directive of the board, we could locate them away from the beach, actually onto the reserve area. Maybe there's a bollard that we could pull for them to allow them to serve clientele passing by Island View on the way to the beach.
That's what I thought they were asking for. I didn't think they wanted to be right down where the freedom camping takes place, but I might have read it wrongly. But I wouldn't want them down there, but I'd be more than happy if there was provision for them on the reserve itself somewhere.
Yeah.
I just through the chair.
Terry?
Yeah, I just hear what Derek's saying. Derek, have you actually read it? Because it just says the recommendation was late, so they didn't look at it. But you have looked at it?
Glanced. I apologise. I haven't.
Maybe if you just if you think it's right, go ahead. If you don't, let us know.
And through the chair, on their application, they've positioned their truck on the reserve.
Yes.
So similar to where they're located at the weekend market.
Okay, copy that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as they're not anywhere near the car park.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'd like to suggest that we approve it subject to staff being able to be satisfied with noise concerns and location concerns, but otherwise that it's all go.
Okay, agree. Now, dear.
Satisfied to noise and location.
They liaise with the weekend market so that.
Did you say it again, Eileen? We didn't hear you.
She said to liaise with the weekend markets, I think is what I heard. Don't they already operate at the weekend markets?
Yes.
So I don't think that's a problem then.
Okay, but we can note it. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, and on to the ice cream trucks.
No problem by me.
No problems with them. Anyone got any issues with the ice cream trucks?
No issue.
Okay. So we can then, what's the resolution going to be?
It actually includes the table, Ken. So if you wanted me to go through it, it's a long table, but and I will tidy it up for the final minutes, but it does make it clear what you have all are prepared to agree to. So these are the first two items, and then I'll scroll through with your direction if that works for everyone.
Okay, so we're, yeah.
So it's getting two members to move and second all of this. So when you're ready, I'll start scrolling.
So someone like to move and second?
Oh.
Who was that?
I'll second it.
Kay and Tamsin, I think I heard.
Thank you. So we'll go through. So starting with this one.
Okay.
So this was an operational comment.
Yeah.
A direction to the operations team.
That's fine.
This was do not approve.
Yeah.
Approve.
Yep.
Approve. Make sure everyone's comfortable that the yoga was considered a minor issue and that was going to be dealt with staff.
Yeah.
I just put those words after it, minor issue to be dealt with by staff. Okay.
This one, if we can go through.
Yeah.
So some of these are directions, so I'll have them in the minutes. Some of them will be part of the resolution, like for example, this bottom bit.
Yeah, you can pull that out and move it up to the, along with the other resolutions, that one there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to confirm that it was Walker and Coulomb and board member Latelli voted against this motion. Councillor Gottlieb abstained and the board agrees. So some of these are comments too, so I'll make the distinction, but I think
the next one is a resolution about receiving
and it was
applications over the 2-year period.
And it would actually had the same, my understanding is it had the same mover and seconder. It had board member Latelli vote against the motion, and Councillor Gottlieb, if I can confirm that you're abstaining from this clause as well.
Correct.
Thank you. So I will, I've noted that, and so I'll put it all under one. So
Okay,
these two clauses with these direction. That's good. Thank you for taking this time. And then the next one. I'm of course adding staff to engage with the operator to discuss concerns.
Yeah.
Okay. This one went through. This one is. Pardon, apology.
Yep.
Okay. And going through the rest of these have been approved. And so then I will put, after that, after I clear it all up, I will put Baker, Latelli. And so they will move and second all those motions. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll put them all now. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Carried.
Thank you for your patience on that one.
Well, thank you. That was a biggie. Right, we're on to the sport and active recreation.
Did you have a presenter for this one?
Yes, okay. Staff want to comment to this one?
So through the chair, we've got Sport Waikato joining us for this meeting. So we've got Bill Cooksley, who's the Thames-Coromandel District Coordinator, and Kate Creswell, who's the Planning and Insights Advisor from that organisation. So Council and Sport Waikato have worked very, very closely together to generate this plan. It sits underneath the Sport Waikato Regional Facilities Plan, which looks at provision of sport and facilities over the entire region. And it sits alongside other organisations, other authorities' sports plans as well. For instance, Hauraki has one. So it's basically a it's a view of recreation and sport throughout the district, covering council facilities, but also facilities and clubs that we actually aren't involved with. So we're not just looking at clubs who have leases and use council land, we're also looking at recreation throughout the entire community. What are the trends? What are the numbers involved? What are our top sports? What are our top active recreational activities, etc.? The plan itself is was consulted throughout the entire district, and a fairly high uptake response level. So it's we've done surveys, and we've also done road shows around the district. When I say we, it wasn't actually me. It was basically Bill and Kate and one of my staff members who's now unfortunately resigned. But it's been a fairly long process, and so we're bringing the plan to the board. We're taking inquiries or questions now, and hopefully we'll get endorsement to be able to take the plan to council and get it approved there.
Thank you for that, and welcome Bill and Kate. I've just got a couple of points I'd just like to raise at the start. One's a minor point, but there's no Whangamata ward. We're part of the southeastern ward, so I think we've been given a status that we don't actually have in terms of the groupings of our projects. The other point is that realise this was all done well before COVID-19. All the groundwork, so things may well have changed in way of people's thinking since that, and certainly going forward that's going to be a big influence. And the final thing is that there are clubs that have participated and put in their thinking, and some of them are quite aspirational, but other clubs and groups haven't participated. So I'm a bit reluctant. I'm happy to receive the report. I'm a bit reluctant to request that council adopts it, because if we're requesting that, I see that we're endorsing everything that's in there. And while I think it's excellent work and there's some good stuff in there and that's going to guide future planning, I don't think that we want it to be seen as the be all and end all in terms of future planning for sport and rec. So I'm going to suggest a slightly alternative second recommendation, but there are some things, and I'll just lead off. I'm not a great fan of the Thames pool being a regional pool, because I can see that that's going to end up being funded district wide, and I'm not sure that's what our community is wanting. So I don't want to actually endorse something which has got things in there that we're not particularly happy with. So that's my opening comments, but I'd like to hear what other board members have got to say.
I agree.
Who was that, Kay?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm supportive of your comments as well.
So have you got any response to those comments, Derek?
It is pertinent to say that COVID-19 has changed the way everybody is thinking. One would hope, though, that this would eventually will reach some form of normalisation, whereby things come back on track. I would like to point out, in terms of where you might have some concerns, is that the individual clubs, what this has done is if they haven't necessarily been thinking holistically, then this is probably giving them an opportunity to start making connections and start thinking holistically, reaching out to their national organisations, their regional bodies, and other clubs as well. A lot of clubs are faced with falling membership in various areas, depending on the demographic makeups, etc. And so to have a club running with fewer and fewer volunteers on an annual basis may actually it's given them an opportunity to think about perhaps hubbing and combining with other clubs. And we've already seen that happening in other locations throughout the district, and also around the country. The plan also does give clubs an opportunity, not necessarily always to tap council on the shoulder for funding, but being part of a recognised plan, it now gives them an opportunity to go out and talk to places like New Zealand Charities Trust, other funders that are out there. And again, I know the funding landscape has changed since COVID-19, but being part of a plan does endorse their vision and makes it easier for them to achieve funding outside council. I might ask my colleagues in Sport Waikato to also step up to the microphone, Bill or Kate, and if you've got any further comments regarding being able to answer the chair's concerns there.
Yeah, through the chair, thanks, Derek. And great points there, Chair, is that the process that we take with sport and active recreation planning, it also looks at the needs in the communities and prioritises projects according to a criteria that is supplied in the appendices of the plan. And I guess the role of the plan is to provide recommendations around which projects should be prioritised by council and community groups. Key to note, though, is that through the recommendations, we refer to investigation and monitoring of projects, as they are not fully formed projects with a budget and scope yet. So the scoping and budget process occurs post-plan adoption and should be supported by the sport facility planning principles supplied in the Waikato Regional Sport Facility Plan. So once the sport and active rec plan has been adopted, council staff with my support usually go through a process of action planning to start investigation of projects and timelines of service. And whilst there was a extensive consultation process and survey response initially, there is still scope for some clubs that may not have been involved to enter into the plan as well. We would need that sooner rather than later. So if the board feel that there are clubs that haven't been heard, then we're still open to those clubs putting forward some submissions.
Thank you, Bill. Terry, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Derek and Bill. And yeah, I spoke yesterday, so you don't hear my voice too many times around this, but there are some projects that we certainly want to put to you, and we will. But also with that $25 million, I think, sport funding package that Matthew Cooper talked about, and the new COVID world, how are you going to look to help clubs through with that funding?
Again, Sport Waikato is probably best placed to answer this one.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. Through the chair, great question, Terry. That initial package that was announced last week around the 25 million there's 15 million that has been distributed through the 14 regional sports trusts throughout New Zealand, and it's essentially an instant helping hand to both regional and local sporting organisations. It's on a first in, first served basis at the moment. So through the application process, which is currently open, then clubs, if they feel that they have fixed costs throughout this COVID-19 process that they couldn't cover, i.e., rent or power or that sort of thing, because they haven't got income, then they can apply to have those some financial assistance around that. So that's the initial one, but you would have potentially seen recently also a 4-year package from the Sport and Recreation Minister in the budget of upwards of $264 million over the 4-year period to help sport and recreation short, medium and long term come out of the COVID-19 process. What that looks like at the moment, we just don't know. We don't have those details. So that could be some support later on down the track once we have those details that Sport Waikato could assist with. But I think the upshot is that if a sport and rec plan is in place, then it does make it easier for external organisations to look at, upon clubs and organisations more favourably because they are part of a plan.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Look, is the application difficult? Is it an easy path for sports facilities to take this on board? Because that's some of the concerns that I've heard.
Are you talking about the Community Resilience Fund? Yeah. It's simple. It's on the Sport Waikato website. It's pretty. There's a whole lot of frequently asked questions and that sort of thing on there that can be answered. So it's a reasonably simple process.
Okay, thank you.
Tamsin.
When is the best time to discuss clubs that aren't on the list, just to establish whether they were contacted and chose to not participate, or whether they haven't had the opportunity yet?
Again, Sport Waikato, I'll ask if they can step up and answer this question.
Might refer to my colleague Kate on that one, who did a lot of the work in the background. Kate?
Good morning, everyone. I guess what we had looked at doing for the Tairua Pauanui meeting previously is providing an email address for community board members to get in touch with us if they had. I believe Terry was going to send through some details of clubs that might want to be involved and might want to be included. We do have a detailed list of the clubs that were contacted and who responded and who didn't. So we have all of that detail. I believe that most of that is captured in the appendices of the document, but if you would like further detail, I'm quite happy to answer your questions around that. If you wanted to get in touch with me directly after the meeting, I can send through a email address in the chat or through the chair.
That sounds great.
Okay, fabulous.
Anyone else got any further comments? Well, I'd like to move Resolution 1 and Resolution 2. I'd just like to modify slightly that the council adopts the plan after the word recreation plan as the basis for future consideration, or to be considered in future decision making. Take out the word the basis, to be considered in future decision making.
Sorry, Chair, can I just one final comment, which might add a little bit of context. The plan has a lifespan of 3 years, and it's reviewed on a 3-yearly basis. So if you've got any concerns about longevity of the plan, there are opportunities to keep reviewing it. So I don't know.
No, I appreciate that. The point I'm trying to make is that this will be a valuable tool in the next long-term plan and other decision making going forward. But I don't want it to be claimed by some that by requesting the adoption of this, we're actually endorsing everything within the plan. I don't want to go through and cherry pick things that I'm personally not happy with, or some that I particularly want to support. I think that's unfair. But what I want to say is, okay, this is going to be valuable when we're going through the next long-term plan or any other decision making, but it's not the only source. So it's to be considered, but alongside other things that might need to be considered as well, such as funding options, etc. So I don't know if that wording makes it clear, but that's what I'm intending to do there. So if staff can tidy up that wording to capture where I'm coming from there. But I appreciate all the good work, and there's good information in there. But as we go forward, that can be referred to. But it doesn't mean that the Whangamata Community Board is fully supportive of everything that's in there. It was also agreeing that everything is in there that should be in there. So, and I appreciate the opportunity to email and if we've got other clubs we think should be part of it as well. So I don't know if anyone wants to second that.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Tamsin. Any further discussion? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much, everyone, for all your hard work. It's some excellent work's gone into there, and yeah, looking forward to being used into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, board, and thank you to Sport Waikato.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're on to another biggie. Do we want to perhaps have a 5-minute break?
Cup of tea? No, well, we're good.
Everyone happy to? Well,
Aaron,
just keep going.
Keep going, baby.
keep going.
Keep
Okay.
going.
Keep going. Rightio. On to 4.1. So we've got the resolutions there. There was a lot to absorb here. I'm sure everyone's had a chance to absorb it all. So, Tamsin, you still got your hand up, or was that from the last one?
Sorry, I'll put it down now.
Okay, Terry.
Is Leslie here?
Yes, good morning, Councillor Walker.
Good morning, Leslie. Nice to see you again.
Likewise. Good morning to Chair and all the board. If you haven't met me before, I'm Leslie Vifus. I work out of the Thames office. I'm one of the strategic planners working under Joe Cook-Munro and Stephen Hunt.
Yeah, I don't want to reiterate yesterday's carry on because going to 2 boards seems you'll be sick of that. But if you could just give us a overview again, like you did yesterday, of what you're trying to achieve, when you're trying to achieve it, and how, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you very much. I take it that everyone's read my report, so I'll just try and be very brief. This draft strategy is a council document. It's a non-statutory document. We don't need to produce this strategy for any reason, but that it actually helps us to do our business better. As you can see, part of the we have a vision and 3 strategic goals. It's basically about managing what we've got better, setting out, how much reserve, how many kinds of different reserves we've got, how much we have, do we need more of any kind? The recommendation is that we've just about got enough land. Where we have shortfalls in one type of reserve, we can compensate for that with other types of reserve that we've got. It's also talking about our community facilities. So it's looking at the halls, the boat ramps, the public conveniences that the council has, and setting out a long-term plan for managing those. And at the front of the strategy, we've got some of the key messages. So basically, as I've said, we've got enough open space, we think, to meet our current and the foreseeable future community needs. We've got an adequate provision of community facilities across the district. Where our challenges lie is in the age and condition of the buildings, some of the buildings and the equipment. And it's about being flexible and agile to meet the changing community needs and preferences for recreation and sporting activities. And as you all know, the seasonal peak demand is a challenge for many of our public open spaces and our facilities. And we have got a challenge around the affordability of repurposing buildings and open spaces to meet future needs. We've also got some challenges around natural hazards. So this strategy in the back of it is some strategic actions that will set us up to be able to meet those challenges better. And that includes setting up some fairly decent management systems for our open spaces and community facilities. Some of that has started already, but this strategy just sort of provides a better guidance over time. And it's also about building and maintaining some of the relationships with some of our key partners. And that's where the sports plan that you were previously considering becomes quite important and interlinks with the strategic work. So I don't know. So I'm really looking for some feedback from the community boards. I'm going around all of them before I report back to council with this strategy. So I'm pleased to take any feedback that you have on it.
Okay, any questions for Leslie?
Oh, Leslie, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm quite concerned there's a wide approach.
I'm sorry, I can't hear. I'm sorry.
I'm a bit concerned about the way it's all through this document as a district-wide approach.
Yes.
To leasing, disposing of assets, and also the provision and management as a district-wide of
Yes.
assets and sort of aging sort of facilities. I think things like swimming pools and stuff like that should be actually local funded. Not, I mean, to me, the new Thames pool, for instance, should not be funded district-wide. I know they say we can go over the hill, but that's not our point. We have a perfect swimming pool. We would like our swimming pool funded. So I'm just concerned that when you're looking at a district-wide approach, what does that mean when it comes to funding? Where is our say in what we can fund and what we can't?
Good question, Kay. Leslie.
Thank you. Thank you, Kay. What this document is saying is that there should be a district-wide approach in the sense that we use the same criteria no matter where we are in the district to assess whether something is needed or not needed. So currently we don't have any criteria in place to decide, and it's very ad hoc, you know. So in terms of funding, this document doesn't propose to change the current funding setup, the way funding is currently organized. That is a matter that would be discussed, I guess, through the long-term plan in the end, but that is a completely different matter about how funding is allocated between the district and the various boards. And that will come through.
You are talking in this document about a robust approach funding. So to me, when you're talking about a district-wide approach and a robust approach to funding, it actually comes under the same thing. Who is going to fund whatever anybody thinks is a great idea?
That's true, but the strategy itself does not say how that funding should take place. What the strategy is saying is that there needs to be a consistent approach, which where there isn't a consistent approach currently, and it doesn't mean that it's saying that the district would have all the funding, for example. It's just saying there needs to be a lot more consistency in how that is taken, how that takes place, and that's a conversation that would actually be discussed under different policies, not under this strategy, be under your financial policies, your funding policies.
Thank you, Leslie. Gary, you've got a question.
Yes, I don't know if you had the opportunity to listen to the 2 days of submissions in regard to the annual plan from citizens. Did you hear those submissions?
Yes, I did, Councillor Gottlieb.
And it's certainly some were excellent submissions, and there was a real concern that coming through that lots of items that are listed in your list are not considered essential. So are there being some thoughts given as to priorities and how this will be done? Because it looks like financially we have a very difficult time ahead.
Yes. So we are already, I mean, what this strategy is saying is that we need to have robust management practices. Currently, there's a very ad hoc approach to how we're managing our open spaces. We're starting to see through the review of the reserve management plans a more rigorous approach. We've finally starting across the district to say, how much land have we got for open space? Do we have enough? And what we're actually heading towards is a more efficient management of our open spaces and our community facilities. It may cost money to get us there, but in the end, we will have a more efficient system, I believe. And this strategy is not actually it's not saying you must spend money. It's saying we need to do things better. If we can make savings, we should.
Yes, well, there's been a lot of comment on some of the items listed there should just be put off because we can't afford them. We've got to look at essential versus other which aren't really essential.
Yes, and council will need to make decisions about what its priorities are and when things will happen, what sequence and what will take priority. And I absolutely hear what the community is saying about this, this year that we're living in, and probably over the next 3 to 5 years, it's not going to be very easy. That is for sure.
Thank you.
Terry.
Yes, just following up on what Gary and Kay are saying, and I just think they're trying to say that there should be robust management practices in place. Your council has been around for a while, but ensuring that there's input from the community boards at that level and with fairness and equity is what they're asking for. So when you do these policies, that's what they look to find in those, that they are being considered in a fair and equitable way. That's, I think, the key message.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that, Councillor Walker. I understand that. Yes, and certainly this strategy doesn't in any way seek to displace the community boards from absolutely having a say in the same way that they do now.
Do we need to actually have that stated explicitly that community boards should be consulted on any decisions regarding open space and facilities in their area? So it's quite clear that any decisions regarding acquisition or disposal, the boards will be consulted. Doesn't seem to be clearly stated to me.
I'm very happy to try to insert some text in there that will make that clear.
Well, I'd like to add that as a further recommendation that the community boards be consulted on any decisions regarding open space and community facilities in their area. So that as feedback to council.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would imagine they would, but I'd hate things to be put through in a hurry because we don't think the board needs to be consulted, and we find that one of our beloved parks has been sold.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think I can certainly include some text in the actions and in the strategy about that.
Okay, well we'll put it as a recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay, just to clarify it.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm coming to see you, the community boards, because I mean we do recognise that the boards have an important role to play in decisions around their open spaces and the community facilities as well.
Okay. Has anyone else still got their hand up? Gary? Any comments from anyone else? Are you able to take, because there was quite a lot there, we may think of other things. Can we fire you an email in the meantime if we've
Absolutely. Got any? Yeah, I was just about to say that. Chair, that's very good. If anybody after the meeting or the next week or so, if you have any feedback for me, I'm very happy to take it. Just drop me an email at my TCDC address, and I will certainly take very serious account of all feedback I get.
Leslie, could you include that email in the meeting chat, and then it's accessible to everyone?
I will send a note in the meeting chat. And I also would like to make it, I think it's in my report that we are going to take this draft strategy out to a full public consultation exercise. So there will be opportunity for our community to give us feedback on it as well before it's finalised.
Will the board be able to make a submission into that process if we have further thought?
If it would like to, yes, absolutely. It's a full public consultation.
It's a question of whether that takes place over one of our meeting periods or not.
Yes. But
So
even if you didn't make a public submission, I certainly, as I've said, I will take all emails. I will take them seriously for sure, and we will incorporate that into our feedback to the council when we take this back to council.
So any other comments from board members?
Thanks for all your hard work, Leslie.
You're very welcome. Thank you. I'll send my email request in the chat.
Thank you, Leslie.
My email address. Okay, thanks very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So we've got
Bye-bye.
some recommendations there. Would someone like to move those?
I'll move it.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Dave. Put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, moving on to information centre funding options. Fairly straightforward report suggesting if we want to consider it, we do it as part of the next long-term plan. So that's 12 months away. So someone like to move that to put it in order?
I'm happy to move that way.
Terry, seconded by
Dave.
Dave. Okay, open it for any discussion.
Yeah, I'm welcoming this crew on board, and we hope that they're successful. And I would really like to. We've been issues over the last 4 or 5 operators, or 3 or 4 operators over financing. So I would hope the board will have some ability to be able to help if we can in the future. It does mean looking to change the funding model within council, and that's a plan that we're trying to get. But whether we get it through or not, we'll tell. But yeah, let's see where it goes and hope it has all the future. And I'd look to see the current operators spending a couple of moments with the new ones just to give them some instruction or advice about moving forward. Thank you.
I'd just like to ask, just confirm that a letter is being sent to the group that have been helping us out so much so far, and thank them for their work because they did an excellent job, the volunteers that were doing it.
I know at the council meeting a resolution was passed by staff, by council along the lines that the garden club, the volunteers and staff be thanked, and Lorna said that was going to be done. So trust that the staff are doing that or have done that.
Through the chair, it's Lorna here.
Hello, Lorna.
Hi there. Yes, we are doing that. We are also preparing a press release announcing the changeover to the new provider and thanking the Whangamata Community Gardens for their support and working through that time period for us as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Lorna.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I'll put that item. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right, on to the work programme. And someone like to move that to put it in order?
I'll move that.
I'll second that.
Okay, Kay and Tamsin. Okay, so we'll go through that and raise any issues as we go through. Are you going to bring it up on your screen? Jennifer? Or should we just go through our own items?
No, I think to bring it up on the screen if they can. I can find mine actually.
Ken, I'm just preparing the document so everyone can see what we're looking at. Just going to take a second.
Quite a big document to fit in onto the screen.
The system is just taking a little longer than expected, but bear with me, it's coming through. It's coming up. just clicking through, and I'll let you know when it should be in front of you.
And we have officers here to answer questions, presumably.
Yes, we do. Can I confirm whether or not you're seeing me flick through the pages now, or if I'll close down my sharing and restart? Can you see me clicking anything?
I hear you clicking on a view.
So what I'll do is I'll just switch my page. Bear with me. Apologies, everyone. I'm taking a little longer than expected. Can you see what I have up on my screen?
I can.
And now.
Okay, thank you for your patience.
Okay, so we'll work through them. So we've got the first page there. Anything people want to discuss?
Is Bruce on board to discuss them?
Yes, I'm on board, Terry.
Hey. So just look at the first one, Bruce, if we can, the harbour news. That's sat around for quite a long time waiting for some action on that. I see they've got a quotation now. Is that still on plan to be done in late June?
So there's some stuff for late June, but the majority of work would be happening in the next year. So in the 2021 annual plan, I think there's 221,000 in that year for works on the wharf.
So the 112 will be done this year?
No, so I think that 112, we probably won't spend that this year, but because we've got money next year, we can get the work done next year.
It's just been in this budget for a couple of years now. I just wondered why it's been slow.
Yeah, so I think the reality on this one was resourcing wise. It took us a while to find a coastal engineer. Once we had him on board for a year and a bit, then he was gone, and we've just struggled to recruit. It looks like we've actually managed to recruit a coastal person now, which is good news. So he should be starting in June. And so we'll have to get a bit more progress on some of these projects. So we've had to prioritise, and you're right, it's been hanging around for a while, but we've got budget next year as part of the annual plan to get the work done.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got 4 other items on that page. Anyone want to discuss any? We've had an update on the skate bowl.
Has there been any increase to the spending requirement for the skate bowl, considering we had to bring in another contractor?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Gary, you've got a question. Gary, your hand's up.
I'm unmute myself. Sorry, Williamson Park Road reseal. I can't. I printed out, but I can't quite read the end. It says something engineering need a reseal identified as some minor or something, and there was $0 spent.
Yes.
Now, when we're talking about Williamson Park, which I've erased this, but the public can't get access from Ocean Road. They cross that bit where they can push their prams and everything. Then you just need a couple of All Blacks to get them up the slope because it's nigh impossible. And my understanding that wasn't completed because you ran out of money. Is that being looked at?
Yeah, there was some work looked at there, and I can't recall where they got to with that pram crossing. I do recall the discussion, and this budget was specifically around a reseal, and that the reseal wasn't required. But we can go back and have a look and make sure that if nothing's already in place around making sure people can access from across the road. I remember where you're talking about. I remember we've talked about it before. I can follow up with that.
Yeah, that'd be good, because the problem is at Christmas time particularly, people were having to use the road to wheel their prams, and there's near hits. I can tell you, it's terrible. So
yeah,
we need to have somewhere so people can safely, not just with prams but wheelchairs and other sorts of things, can get across the road safely and can get into the park safely rather than having to take the cars on. So I just refresh your memory again on that. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, well, yeah, thank you for that.
Okay, moving on to the next page. So starting unedited toilets. And any comments on this page?
A little update on this would be great, on the toilets, where it's going and how it's going and how it's looking.
Yes, I don't have all the details at hand. Apologies, Terry. But as I understand it, everything is going well, and there was just some planting and stuff to be done. So getting pretty close to finalising that one.
How are they going to do? When's it planned to open? Terry got a date?
I haven't got an opening date, Terry. No, sorry, but I know it's not too far away.
Through the chair, can I just speak in relation to the street lighting one, please?
Yeah. The renewals or the improvements?
Sorry?
Renewals or improvements?
Well, improvements really. I'm getting a lot of complaints in relation to the street lightings going out and the amount of streets that are in darkness at night. And there's concerns about people walking with their safety. And I just wondered if any of this money in the kitty could be used to improve the system so that they don't have to go through that.
So I can answer that one. Generally, we've got a maintenance budget for street lights as well. So if we've got issues where bulbs are blowing, those are replaced, obviously, once we know about them. So there's no issue around that. Streetlight improvements was really around adding additional streetlights to areas which need it. And from my recollection of this one was that we couldn't do the next section that we wanted to do with the remaining budget, so we've had to just kind of cut our cloth to suit and just stop where we've spent at that 16,500. But obviously there's a budget each year for those kind of things, which would be considered as part of the annual plan. So normally there's ongoing money with that, but obviously with the current situation, that'll be a consideration that council will have to work through as part of the deliberations. But if there's specific areas which have got problems, then we're always happy to hear about those, and we can investigate and have a bit of a look into them.
Bruce, you may not be aware, but most of the town has been in blackness for the last 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Apologies, I wasn't aware of that. Okay, quite a serious issue.
On that, I've sent an email off to PowerCo this morning because Anne attached the map showing that basically the whole town is out. So hopefully after this meeting, I might have an update from PowerCo as to where they're at with that.
Thank you, Eileen. Yeah, so any power issues, like lights not going on or lights staying on in the day, is a PowerCo issue. They have like an automatic timers that turn them on and off depending on, the sunrise and sunset. So we do get those queries come to us, but as Eileen says, it's a PowerCo issue normally.
Yeah, Eileen, just one of the people that rang last night was concerned that they had contacted council. They were referred to PowerCo. PowerCo referred them to Mercury, and nothing else happened. And then again last night, the lights were still out. So it just seems that there's a bit of a tennis match as to who is taking responsibility for it.
No, well, the customer needs to ring in and lodge an RFS, which we send to PowerCo. We've got no control over what PowerCo does. That's the answer I'm trying to get from PowerCo today, because this whole town's been out since about Saturday. So sure. If it's been going around, yeah, we need to know that, but our staff would not have sent them off to PowerCo.
Well, that was the information I got, but I can check back with them and make sure that they did do a request for service.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Can I ask, is there anything stronger we can do with PowerCo or Mercury or whoever it is? Should we be sending letters from the mayor or something? Because it's certainly not a great thing from a safety point of view to have darkness going on for days and days and not being addressed.
No, we can always look to send letters from elected members or the mayor, like you say, Ken. Generally, it can take a few days for them to get issues resolved. So I would think if it's not resolved in the next kind of day or so, then that might be appropriate to move to that next step.
Okay, we'll check out tonight.
Can I ask a question around the budget for this? Are you saying that budget of $16,000 is that it for these lights, Bruce?
Say again, sorry, Terry.
The budget for these lights, for the street light renewals?
Improvements or renewals?
Well, improvements and renewals, either or. Are those that you say these budgets are cut?
No, they're not cut, but it was around what we could get done in a certain area. There was a few different sites that we had on the go, and we got as many sites done as we could under that budget without moving to the next site, which would take us over that budget.
Well, in the budget, it looks like it's all spent up to me. And yet when I look at the other budgets now, there's a lot more money being spent on street light improvements and renewals. I just wonder why our budget's exhausted.
So are you looking at the $23,000 budget, Terry?
Yep, $23,000 budget. If I look in the long-term plan, it's revised under the new one, it's 23 grand and it's all over. And on this program here, you've got them as 32, which is all over, and the street improvements is 23 and 16. Well, the street improvements in here is at 23 and 23. That's on this budget that I've got in my hand from the council, the latest one for the 1920 revised COVID thing.
Oh, okay. So I think that's probably the 23 and the 23 that you've got on your sheet will be budgets that were set and then budgets for this year. But I think what we're saying is that we can't move on to the next. We haven't changed the budget. We've just underspent it, because if we carry on to the next site, we're going to overspend it. I think that's what it's actually saying.
You're saying 6,500 is not going to get anything done.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, again, these budgets need to be re-looked at, right? Because we're very low on the numbers for these kind of things in street light improvements and things like that. And I know there was the big upgrade that was done to LEDs and all that was done by the government. That's all gone and dusted. But this is a concern. We're getting regular letters, and this last little batch is out of control. You can hear the guys saying that streets are black and complaints are coming through. So we just don't want them to go into deaf ears when it looked at.
No, that's something we certainly have to address in the long-term plan, because it's something that a lot of the community are commenting on. So we may have to revisit that total budget next time around.
Yeah, correct. And that would be the place to look at it if you think that this budget's not, generally not sufficient each year for the improvements. Then the long-term plan is the place to make that change. But however, just going back to the issue that you're currently experiencing in Whangamata, that's not something obviously related to our budgets. It's just purely related to a PowerCo issue.
Okay, and I see, Gary, have you still got your hand up?
No.
No.
It doesn't show my hand being up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, well, is it off now?
Yeah, no, that's right. So Wentworth Valley's proceeding as you expected?
Not quite as we expected, obviously, with the lockdown. With having people off the road for 4 or 5 weeks, that's put a bit of a spanner in the works. However, this year it's hard to know exactly what we're going to spend up to the end of June, but somewhere between 270,000 and probably 270 to 670 is probably what we expect we'll spend this year, and then they'll be back into it next financial year and carrying on with that work.
And we've got a legally binding tender signed contract, so the money has to be carried forward.
Yes, we're obligated to carry on and let that work happen and pay that money, definitely. So we're still committed to getting that stuff done. So yeah.
Excellent.
Can I ask Bruce whether the dock part of it's still locked in?
I haven't heard whether we've actually got a signed agreement. The intent definitely was there. However, what I will say is I'll just throw the caution in there that was pre-COVID-19. So I guess if we saw any kind of dock reprioritization of their budgets, I suppose there's a risk there around them still having that money. The intention was definitely there, the signal was definitely there, the commitment was there, and we're just trying to get a document signed around that. Now, if that doesn't come to pass, if they have to go back on that commitment, it's a severable portion in the contract. We'd carry on and get all our section done, and then that last little section would remain to be picked up by dock at a future date.
I understood that that money was coming mostly into this year and a portion for next year. So would you not have it already?
So we're not funding any of the dock portion.
No, but the docks money that they said was coming forth was going to be in this financial year and the balance into the next financial year.
Correct, correct. All I'm saying, and probably, fingers crossed, that's exactly how it'll stay. All I'm saying is just with the lockdown and organisations and central and local government having to relook at budgets, I don't think we can take anything for granted. And if they've had to go through and reprioritise, there could be changes possibly to their next year's budget. I don't know, but I'm just, and again, maybe I'm kind of spooking the horses a little bit, but
you're spooking us. You're spooking us.
And I don't intend to do that, Terry. So apologies. But I guess what I'm saying is we're committed to carrying on and getting our stuff done, and that's what we're doing. And we're committed to pushing as hard as we can to make sure we get a signed agreement from DOC. But just knowing how budgets are having to be relooked at and changed across the whole country and the whole world, I guess that's why I just throw that out there. But like I said, don't intend to. I'm not doing it to kind of panic anyone.
Maybe an email requesting that up front would be good.
I know the team are working with them, and I'll follow up and just make sure and see if we need to get anything in writing. We've already done that.
Thank you.
Okay, so now to the last page of CapEx, starting with street furniture. Any questions from anyone?
The nib curb we would like to discuss.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, again, Bruce, there's been discussion. There was 2 streets that were chucked up. Obviously, some were tied into some stormwater work and some wasn't. Nib curb work, but we still haven't seen a plan around this. Have you got something that we can visually see what's going on?
I haven't got a plan on hand at the moment. Apologies, Terry, but obviously the update that went out to the board from the project manager, Sam Edlin, is that the work on Kiwi will be done this financial year. There was insufficient budget to do the work on Barraclough, and so the Barraclough work, which I think was 115,000, if I remember correctly, would have to be rebudgeted at some future date, and whether that would be in the LTP that you'd look to kind of reinvigorate the nib curb program and try and pick up Barraclough and any other future sites that the board is interested in picking up. But at this stage, we're focused on delivering Kiwi and getting that one done and ticking that one off.
How much is Kiwi Road? Can you give me an indication?
I think Kiwi Road, was around 225k, if I remember correctly.
Yes, right.
And that's got some district funding in it.
Yeah, so there's some district funding to pick up some stormwater works. There's some work around Low Street, I think. If I remember correctly, Low Street, I think there was. That was being funded out of district stormwater budget.
I think before the next long-term plan, we'll need to have a workshop where we go through and refresh our minds as to what streets are missing nib curb or curb and channel, and prioritise and put forward budgets, because we've run out of budget basically for this long-term plan. We need to do that work in advance of the next one.
That's a good idea. I think we get the maps out and we can workshop it and look at what the priorities are and try and build up a program for the long-term plan. Definitely.
Bruce, with that, surely we would have a stormwater plan to put us alongside it, so we know where we're spending that money versus the nib curb program.
Yes, correct. And if you recall back to that meeting we had, which was a few months ago, we had the stormwater plans that we came and brought to the community board meeting in Whangamata. You're right, Terry. We're one of those things to mesh together, definitely.
Okay.
Question about the beach access renewals, $15,000.
Yes.
There was talk of doing a trial in the boardwalk project. Is this a duplication, or is this what the trial is going to be done out of?
I don't know. Apologies. Yeah, I don't have that level of detail, but the information that I've had from the team coming back from the project delivery team is that they are still working on spending that one this year and getting that done. But I don't know about that link up and alignment with the boardwalk. So whether it will just carry on ahead and get done by itself, or whether it'll need to hold off But I can find out and come back to the board on that one.
Thank you. Tamsin.
With regards to the harbour walkway, when will that information be made available to us to view?
So I don't have an update on that one, apart from that's on hold. And I'll need to go back to the project manager and just determine what information he's got and what when that will be coming back to the board.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. If the beach access one, sorry, just go back to that 15,800. If that's not done before the end of June, can that be put forward as a carry forward?
It can be so if the board are keen on doing that, they can propose that definitely for council. I can't recall off the top of my head whether we've got a budget for that type of work next year already, in which case you might look at it and say, look, we've actually got money in the 2021 year, let's just carry on with that.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'll double check on that as well, and when I send the update out to the board, I'll let you know about that too.
Hey, Bruce, if I remember rightly, there was actually supposed to be a report done on those beach access.
Was there? Okay.
Yeah. Because, okay. I mean, some of them are in a pretty bad way.
Right, okay.
I don't remember that myself, but could well be. Okay, we're looking at operations now.
What happened to the reserve car park? What happened to the reserve car park reseals? We skipped over that.
No, that was.
Well, you were supposed to raise it if you wanted. Sorry.
We did talk about the car park. I thought we talked about the car park reseals. Oh no, we talked about Williamson.
No, we didn't talk about.
That was Williamson Park, Bruce, not this one.
Yes, so car park reseals is the one that I think we'll be getting into. I think as per the note from October.
So what are you? I noticed you've got Island View Reserve car park there.
Yes.
Do we have any plans for that? I mean, that is a disaster.
I don't know the details, apologies, Kay, but if you can tell me what part of it's a disaster, then I'm happy to take some notes and follow up with the appropriate people.
Well, for starters, if you want a freedom camp there, all the blood rushes to your head.
Right, okay.
I think you should go and have a look at it. I mean, we've been banging on about this, well, I have anyway, for 4 years.
Okay.
It's time somebody actually had a look at things before they just go and reseal something.
Yeah, no, definitely, they'll do that. They will go and have a look at it ahead of time. What I'll do is I'll ask for our community facilities field rep to nip out there and have a bit of a look and see about if there's any issues that need to be resolved prior to October, if we're going to look at doing any resealing then.
Perhaps one of the board members could meet with them down there.
That's definitely an option, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really important what Kay's saying, because we know, and it's been told and reported, that the drainage from that runoff runs straight into the toilets, and the stormwater is not directed in the right direction. So it is a major concern to get that right before you start putting tar on the road and keeping it there. So it has been raised.
Yeah, definitely. We've had to deal with a previous site that was sealed prior to getting the stormwater resolved, and yeah, it's definitely not the way to do things. It's cart before the horse. So what I will do is I'll organise for our parks field rep and our water services field rep to coordinate with elected members and with Kay to go out on site and have a look at that Island View reserve area car park.
And also, Bruce, if they need to look at what they've done with the freedom camping.
I can't quite hear you there, Kay.
They need to look at the marking that they've put down for the freedom camping. They're actually totally illegal. They've got 3 car parks with about 30 centimetre spaces between them. You're supposed to have 1.5 metres if you've got gas on board. We're totally illegal down there as far as freedom camping.
Right.
I'm not
Okay,
sure
I
if that's the
think I see
law
what
or
you're
that's
saying.
the
Well, it
recommendation.
should come in, because if they're going to reseal, they need to be looking at the markings they're doing.
Yep, that's a good point. I guess the thing is yeah, I think that's a valid point, Kay. Definitely, I think that if we're marking it, maybe we should look at marking them wider apart so that we can have that spacing. But obviously, generally, that would be on the actual, the camper van or motorhome owner to be managing that side of things. But I take your point on if we've got closed car parks marked, then they maybe won't do, which then does create a bit of a risk.
Yeah, well, you're the ones that have put the signs up for them, so they've got to park in between those signs. You can't
Understand
park
that.
3 cars.
Yep, understand that.
Well, just reminds us we need to look at that whole area there, but that's another day. Tamsin, you've had your hand up for some time.
Oh, that's okay. That was just once we move on to the operational expenditure, I had my hand up for that.
Yeah, no, I thought we were there. Okay, moving on to operational, and you've got the first crack there, Tamsin.
Just a query around the community grants. I might not remember correctly, but I thought that Enterprise Whangamata requested for that grant to be retained, but it looks like it's been paid back. Just interested to know what's happened there and whether we would reallocate those funds to someone that missed out on a grant when they were allocated in September last year.
Could you move it up a bit, please, Jennifer?
The 3,500. Any staff like to comment on that?
Could that 3,500 be used in relation to the information centre to help with the setup of that?
No.
I haven't heard that they are needing 3,500 spent there.
Were there other applicants that weren't successful last year?
There were, if I speak to that, there were a lot that didn't get the full amount they'd asked for. Some were trimmed back, and there were some that missed out. Yes,
Right.
A lot more than 3,500. It was tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, just it would still be good to make sure we spend the whole allocation of that 37 if we're able to.
I'm not sure what process we could follow before now and the end of June to do that, but
I feel like Eileen's trying to talk, but we can't hear you.
The board did allocate 37,000 for the 2019-2020 financial year. The reason why this is in a doesn't look like a spent a whole lot is because Enterprise Whangamata refunded one of their 2018-2019 grants, and it came back in after July of this year. So that's why it looks like you haven't spent the whole lot. But this board did grant 37,000 when they did the allocations in June, July.
Right.
Okay, having been told that, I'd leave well enough alone. I think we'd done our exercise, which took some hours, and it was from the previous year, so it'll just be banked and go into the general funds. The beach shop one, are we going to be hit with 2 beach shops this year of 11,000? Is that going to be the case?
Yeah, so because we'll be into a new financial year, you will have 2 beach hops come out of the 2020-21 contract services budget.
And we can't carry any of that forward, can we?
I would keep that 3.5 grand to help pay for that.
Oh, there's 30,000 in the community services contract store.
That's right. So you can't carry forward any budget from the 2019-2020 year. It all will have to come out of the 2020-21 financial year.
The $11,000 beach hop will have to come out of the 2021 year.
That's correct. So you'll end up having 22,000 taken out of that budget in the 2020-21 year.
Why can't you give it to them now then?
Because the grant has to be spent in the financial year that it's allocated.
Well, that's crazy.
Are we aware of the losses that they occurred from the cancellation? Would we not continue with that grant for them to support that?
Okay, so we don't make the rules, but the grants that are allocated have to be used and spent in the financial year that they are allocated. So in this case, if each hop had gone through in March, not a problem. But because it wasn't run and it's now going to be run in the next financial year, you cannot take grant money from this year and carry it over to next year. It has to be spent and used in the financial year.
Is this just a board decision or a council decision?
Through the chair, this is council policy, but Eileen and I have discussed this, and you will have enough money in that existing contract community services budget to cater for the 2 beach hop events in that financial year.
What else does that put at risk? Because we've spent an extra 11,000. Is there something else we're not going to be able to do?
No.
I'm looking at this and thinking that $11,000 will come out of our ability to put in a safe zone and security over the Christmas period. Are you saying that that's still intact and not going to be touched?
I can't tell you that, Terry, because we won't know what those costs for the Christmas New Year period are until such time as we go out. I mean, last year we well underspent. Security only cost us $5,000 instead of the normal 11.
But we know that didn't work.
Correct.
Can we make a recommendation to council for when they consider the annual plan to increase that to 86,000 on the basis that we didn't spend it this year? It's all local money. It's only this area that's paying for it. So we've had savings this year. I'm saying spend the money next year. Can we adjust that budget?
I don't know, sorry. Sorry, Ken, I don't know if we'll be able to do it. I don't know. Erin, do you know?
Through the chair, I was actually going to actually ask Bruce about that, because I know there are issues around basically carrying forward or OPEX, of course, some of the OPEX that you've got there, but whether that's something that as staff we would put forward there. Bruce, if you could comment, that'd be great.
So yeah, I can provide a little bit of comment that operational costs, we don't carry those across because they're rated for the actual year that they're in. But what you would do, I think, if I'm picking up what Ken's suggesting, is that the board would recommend to council that we're not carrying it across, but basically we're going to up the 2021 grant money by the amount that you didn't spend this year. So I think that's what you're probably suggesting.
That's what I'm suggesting. I like a recommendation to council that the contract community services be increased to 86,000 for next year.
Well, I think you should move that way.
I'll move that way. Someone like to second that?
Yeah, I'd second that.
Dave seconding that. And that can go through to the council meeting where they're considering the annual plan as late input from us. And do we need to say it's because of 2 beach hops next year, or is it not necessary?
I think it'll be useful to add in there any commentary like that and include that you didn't spend money was unspent in this year. So it's not a carry forward, but it just provides a little bit more background as to the rationale. It's not like you spent all your money in 1920 plus you now want additional money in 2021. So I think that's useful.
And also the fact that it's been rated for, so that the ratepayers have paid for it, and we're just trying to use it.
Oh, we'll be looking for our local councillors to speak very eloquently at the council meeting on this one.
Thank you, Alex.
Can I just say something?
Yes, who's that?
I think whatever the outcome, it has to go ahead. If we have to spend 22,000, that's what we've got to do, because this town is going to need 2 beach tops.
I agree, but I'd like to have the budget provision in there for next year, given that we are not spending it in the current year, just to make it quite clear what we're doing.
Oh, I agree, but
Yeah.
you know, really.
Okay, well, let staff tidy up the wording, but I think they increase of $11,000.
Yeah. Maybe we just need to say there that because there will be 2 beach tops in the one financial year.
Yeah.
I just want to confirm, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could see, I didn't know that, sorry. Recommends to approve an increase.
Yeah, we can see the screen, fine.
Through the chair, Jennifer, I
to
recommend just building it to accommodate 2 beach hops in the 2021 year.
Yeah.
You
Is everyone happy with that?
Yeah, to accommodate 2 beach hops in the 2021 year. Yeah.
Okay. I'll get the name.
Okay, so we'll add that as another recommendation there. So back to the list. Anything else people want to talk about? Drinking water standards.
Yes, that project's going well. Obviously, a bit of a hold up during the lockdown, but the contractors are back on site in Tairua and Pawanui, working their way through that. Coromandel was the next plant earmarked for next financial year, as well as getting stuck into some of the stuff in Whangamata.
And the CCTV camera, how are we getting on up at the tip or the spark?
At the transfer station, Ken?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's all operational.
Is it?
We've had those cameras that we've had at our refuse transfer stations were very useful. We went into the new operating model or temporary operating model during the lockdown, and we had to have skip bins where people could drop off rubbish.
No, I don't mean those. I mean the ones that were, that's good, but I mean the ones that were going to do the access to Whangamata like we've got near Moana House.
Oh, right. I see, like traffic coming into town.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have an update on that. Sorry, I have to find that out.
It's only two years late, so it'd be quite good to get that bit signed off. That completes the whole program that we intended, but just seems to have gone nowhere with the telco.
It can be slow moving in some of those different agencies, definitely.
Well, just remind them if they're coming to look to put any more cell phone towers in the future, we may be a bit slow responding also.
I'll leave that for elected members to pass that message on, Ken.
That was a joke.
I know.
But yeah, we are anxious that the set of cameras is completed because we've got a bit of a gap in our program there.
Sure.
Okay, anything else there for comment?
I'd just like to have a final comment, and this is no reflection on you, Bruce, because you front up and come to us. But our last meeting was in February, and today there are written down 10 points that you need to come back to us on. And it's really frustrating for those board members who only have a meeting every 6 weeks, let alone 3 months, to wait for those answers. And again, this is no reflection on you to you front every time, but having that information at the meeting that we could tick them off would be fantastic going forward.
I hear what you're saying, Terry, and I guess what I'd say is that, and I appreciate you saying it's no reflection on me, so I do my best to answer those questions, but there's no way I'm going to know the answers to everything. So I guess my plea would be that if you have specific questions, if elected members have specific questions, if once they get the agenda, I'm happy if they send any of that stuff through to me that I can chase that stuff down ahead of me coming to present. The alternative is I try and get, army of people all on the line, which doesn't really work either. So, so I totally understand what you're saying, Terry, and I I feel bad that I keep saying I'm going to come back to the board on these things. So I think that would help all of us out if we could move to that way of operating. So that's my initial thoughts anyway.
Just to talk to that, these are just questions that are already sitting on the paper. These are not extra over and above. These are just follow-ups on what's already on the paper that we're looking at now on these work program. Nothing extra, just what's there.
Yeah, I guess my point is you're asking specific questions about certain things on this work program.
Well, just where we're going with them. You know, these are questions that people or project managers would have. If it was talking about a sealed park, they would say this is where it's in the program, or they talk about a CT camera, this is where you are to date. These are information that project managers should provide to you if you're going to front to the meeting and have them right in front of you. And I'm not saying this is your problem, it's their problem. It gives that information to you so you can just feed it to us straight away and we just tick it off, we know where we're going, move on to the next one. Now we've got to wait for 10 items to be reported back on, and we wait for that, and then the world goes on, and it just delays everything we're trying to achieve and getting things moving in the right way.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and some of those things that it would be a little bit more diligence on the comments would definitely help in that regard. But there are issues that have come up, around Island View car park. There's no way that the project manager would know that those questions were going to come up, so they couldn't have put those comments in there. So.
But they would. If you look at Island View car park, that's been raised 4 times that I know of, in words, on platforms, actually told to them when they about that issues. Also in the toilet report, it was raised there as well, plus by some people with RFSs. So they do know what's going on. You may not, because you've got a higher lookout, but those project managers know about those issues.
Yeah.
And we were guaranteed that there would be a report in November.
Say again, sorry, Kay, I missed that.
We were promised a report would be to the board for our November one. It didn't happen. We asked for it for the next one, which of course has been cancelled. And so we're now COVID-19. So I'm still wondering when we're going to get the Island View report.
So you were looking for a report on Island View that you asked for in November last year?
Yeah, we've already been down there, discussed it, looked at it all, and a report was going to come through. That was last year.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that.
And like I say, we're not pointing on you, Bruce, but your managers that you report to you are aware of it, and they should provide this information so when you come to these meetings, you're not getting these questions fired at you. You can say, this is the deal.
Yep, no, I hear what you're saying, Terry, and I'm not trying to make excuses at all. I suppose, and I will be following up with those managers. The challenge always is to try and get the right balance of commentary in there without making the report too huge. But I totally hear what you're saying, and yet it's something that I'm constantly pushing on and trying to get that balance right with the managers and project managers for elected members.
I'll just make sure we have that meeting down at Island View, and that'll take care of some of the issues.
Yeah.
Just through the chair, can I just ask in relation to the security cameras, we had discussed about putting some at the skateboard park, and it just seems if this is getting close to being finalised, that this is the time that we should be looking at installing them. Is there a possibility that we could do that?
So I've already chased up the project manager on that. I haven't heard back so far, but there was, when I go through and have a quick look at things, that was one of the points that I'd seen, Dave, and so yeah, I haven't heard back yet.
Okay, thank you.
Would we have any budget to do that out of?
The project manager is the only one to be able to provide
Jennifer, your chat is on our screen.
Oh, apologize. That's all right. I'm just trying to be effective and efficient and see if I could bring someone in.
Very good.
Thanks, Tamsin.
Okay, so nothing more on the work program. Thank you, Bruce. So we've got some resolutions there, and they've been moved and seconded. So I'll put those. All those in favour? Aye. Aye. Against?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, we're now moving on to the action schedule. So, deal with the status, etc. Any questions on the action schedule?
I've just highlighted where I may have received an update, or if I get to this point, this is for board member Latele to respond to. I understand that she's already had a discussion, so if you wanted to speak.
Sure. I spoke with Alistair and Jethro, the principals of our local schools, and both were really excited to have the opportunity to be represented by the community board. Alistair said it would be fantastic to have a dedicated liaison person. So a bit delayed with our first catch up, obviously, due to the lockdown. However, we are catching up, the three of us, for a coffee next week.
Excellent. Well done, Tamsin.
Thanks.
And well, the next ones are closed. So anything else we need to discuss in the...
It's just all stuff that we've talked about, so I've got no comment.
In relation to the community patrol, I attended the community patrol meeting, and they were also very grateful that they had representation, and they've actually submitted showing us that they have what their actual hours were of patrol, which is 656 hours of patrol last year, and also the incidents that they'd attended, which there's very good communication between them and police now, and the things are coming along quite good, so they did appreciate that. And also in relation to the senior net, when I went there, they also appreciated the fact of having representation.
Excellent. No, those liaison roles are valuable. Okay, if there's nothing else on that item, I'll ask someone to move that we receive the report.
Hey, Ken, I'm just thinking about Tamsin, you're saying about the area schools, the area school as well. So are you meeting with them? Because we haven't, the board hasn't actually done a resolution approving you to be their liaison, or are we not at that stage yet?
I thought the approval was given subject to them wanting representation from the last minutes.
That's as I recall it. We could go back to the minutes at the beginning of the meeting. And
we'll just check up on that, and then I can get those liaison letters done if the resolution's already been done.
Perfect.
That was the intention, as I recall it from the minutes, that Tamsin would be the liaison person unless the school decided that they didn't want a liaison person. And having had that confirmation that they did, then Tamsin becomes. But we can pass that resolution if you think that's necessary, just to make it double certain.
I think we should just to make sure that we have it right, so that we can, because it is for the next few years. So was for both. So was it for the area school, Apotri and Apotri, Tamsin?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So our last minutes was, the resolution was to appoint the nominated board member as the representative, and then we've listed that, and then under nominated board person, we put TBA next to Whangamata and Opotire School.
So now it has been advised, so we'll, just to be double certain, we'll approve it again as board liaison with the Opotire and Whangamata schools.
Sounds good. Also, just on the action schedule, just to discuss the CCTV again. I thought at our last meeting we discussed communicating to local businesses that they could add a CCTV camera to the network if they would like. Was that something we had discussed?
I think we did discuss it, Tamsin, it's Terry here, but I don't think we had the funds available to move that direction, but it's a good thing down the track to do for sure.
Okay.
I thought it was more that the businesses would fund that than themselves.
Yeah.
So if the supermarket wanted their camera to be looked at by the police, they could pay for it and it'd be hooked up, and then the police could have a look at it if they needed to.
Yeah, but there would be some connection fees and all that kind of stuff. They would
that'd all be met by the business if they wanted to have it covered.
I think they were doing it so the police could get a better coverage of town. They wouldn't want to do it for the sake of their own place. I think it was just something we'd have to discuss and understand how it would be done. But the idea was that they would front with their cameras and pay all that end of it, and then we would discuss the connection side.
I'm not sure. We did discuss it. I'm not sure we actually resolved anything, but
no.
I thought it was.
I
thought it was in discussion.
Very much discussion. Yeah.
It was to be looked at.
So who's looking at it?
I don't know, because at that stage, you remember the one out by the dump wasn't completed, and neither was the one at the end of State Highway 25 by Moana House. So I thought this was for the future to look at if businesses wanted to, they actually could come on board, but they paid all the fees.
Yeah, well, like you say, Kay, we've just talked about it. Like, we haven't got the project finished for the 5 cameras that we originally arranged for. So let's get those done. Pull in Justin to talk about them, talk about the options of other people doing it. These are discussions that I think are good, but not quite ready for them yet.
No.
Okay, so we'll finish off with the tender program, which we started a couple of years ago, and then we can look to expand it and see whether there's any other locations. There may well be some council facilities, such as Williamson Park. We may want to look at putting a camera in there, but we'd need to look for funding for that.
And Dave's idea is a great idea at Skateball.
And Skate Park as well, yeah. So, okay, so would someone like to move those recommendations?
I'll move it.
Okay, seconded by
Dave.
Dave. Okay, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. All right, moving on to members' reports, and thank you, Terry, for attaching your members' report. Comprehensive as usual. So going around well, I'm not sure which order you go, so who would like to go first with the members' report, if any?
I've got one.
Yeah.
I want us to start seriously looking at our freedom campaign. We're going to be relying on domestic tourism. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, what was, you broke up then, Kay? You'd like us to what?
Look at freedom camping.
I want freedom camping to come to the top of the fore when we're looking at parks, reserve, whatever. Because if we're going to have domestic tourism, hopefully increasing in our town, we need to start looking after them.
It's not quite a members' report, Kay, but I'll take that on board.
I don't care. I'm sick of banging on about it.
Thank you. Dave.
Yeah, we mentioned last time in relation to signage coming into town, and I don't know whether anything has been done with the lockdown, etc. But for tourists, I think it's important that we look at our signage, trying to get people to come into the city or into the town as opposed to going through the bypass road.
Thank you, Dave. And also in terms of, we've been asking for 3 years about having signs to say you're coming into the Thames-Coromandel district, but it seems to be quite a hard ask. So, yeah.
Can that be taken up by the councillors for their next meeting so that we try and move it along, or is it Elaine that can move it along?
It is my understanding that's being taken up by economic development, and due to one of their staff member leaving, it has now been transferred to another staff member. I had been speaking to them, and I will make sure I get an update on your action schedule, and if not, sent out sooner via email. But that has been transferred to another staff member who is taking it up.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Thank you.
Tamsin, any report from you?
Tamsin, I believe your mute's on.
Oh, there you go. Sorry. Pretty brief report from me, but just to let everyone know, I was selected for the Local Government New Zealand Young Elected Members Governance Development Program. So now
Congratulations.
I've been participating in a few of the local government National Council meetings. There was a number of them over lockdown, so that was a interesting experience. So I'll be sitting on that from April to April next year. So. And then the second item to report was just that I've had really good discussions with our local school so far. So looking forward to continuing that.
Thank you.
That's all from me.
Okay, thanks, Tamsin. Gary, anything to report?
Gary's had to go, I think.
Yeah, looks like he's gone.
Okay. And I've just been locked down for 7 weeks and enjoying getting back to level 2 and supporting the local cafeterias, the cafes.
You want me to give a brief on mine?
Oh, we've read yours. Very comprehensive.
Going on.
Do you want to add to it?
Well, just one there at the bottom. If people have read it, that's good. The community hub update. I think we're at a stage now where the OPEX budgets that have been prepared by the working groups in that hub have gone off to council to get to check to see if they meet the criteria, and hoping that they come back so that they can be put towards a council meeting for adoption. So we look forward to that, and I'm not too sure where they are in the process, but it would be interesting to know what's going on.
Okay, now I'd like to hear when that's going to go to council meeting. I'd like to sort of sit in on that discussion when that happens. Is it likely to be July? Is it that goes?
Well, it'd be nice to get to the end of June, 23rd, but yeah, one of the issues over the open spaces policy was that they were looking for a community board collective submission, and I know the Toropanua is having a special meeting to do that. Was there plans to do anything with us, or are we looking for individual submissions? But I thought that could be an opportunity to if this OPEX budget was ready to go, to endorse it and put it towards the council meeting on the 23rd of June.
Well, I'm happy to endorse it, but does it really come under that category at the land at this stage? I know as a community facility it does.
Sorry, I don't understand. What are you saying?
Sorry, at the moment that land is industrial land, and they were talking about. Are you talking about dealing with reserve land?
No, it's using that site as it is as an industrial site, but getting the adoption from council for the hub to carry on and put a fundraising package to outside agencies to continue to build the hub. In other words, they want approval to use the land for a hub.
For a hub. Well, I'm not sure if it's appropriate to pass a resolution now. I certainly support that.
No, not today. You need to get the OPEX thing signed off by council that meets their objectives, and then you'll get that inside recommendation. Then you just need the board recommendation to go to council.
The board, the previous board had already endorsed the community hub, but be useful for the current board to do the same. It's a question. Once we find the timing of the of when it's going to council, how do people feel if we needed to necessarily have an urgent meeting to just pass a resolution to support the community hub proposal?
Could be a Zoom meeting.
It could be an online meeting like this, yeah. Just one item.
I think it would be a good idea.
Yeah, happy with that.
Okay, so if staff can just keep us appraised to the progress of that and when the council are going to consider it, and once we know that date, if we could have an urgent online meeting to consider providing support for the use of 101 Lindsay for a community hub.
Yeah. Through the chair, can I just check with you, Terry? Has that already been submitted through to staff?
Yes, that's been submitted through Eileen to Donna Holland.
Oh, to Donna. Okay, thank you for that.
Terry, no, I haven't received anything from the group. They haven't emailed me, so they may have emailed directly their proposal to Donna, but I haven't received it.
Did you provide them with Donna's email?
No, I only responded to you. I didn't have you never gave me a contact for them. I just advised you to tell them to go to Donna. So whether they've done that or not, I don't know.
Well, I copied your email to them, and I can't remember if it had Donna's on there, but at any rate, I copied your email information to Peter and Ryan. Okay, well, maybe I'll follow that up and see where it's gone and keep you posted what's going on there. But I would have thought they would have communicated back through you because I said you were the agent looking, following it through.
Yeah, thanks, Terry. It'd just be good to keep Eileen and I informed. So I thought it was a bit odd because we always see each other. And thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Okay, and thanks, Eileen and Erin. If you just keep an eye on the timing of things, and if we need to have a special meeting because of the timing of our meetings, so be it. We'll have one. If it's not going to council until after July, then we can probably deal with it with our June meeting. So yeah, just keep an eye on the timing, and but we certainly, I would be really keen for the community board to be giving support to the proposal. Okay, so we don't have a mover and second of the members' reports, so I'll move. And someone like to second? Second by Kay. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right, does this move us to our red line?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
So just have to move you in to it, and then I can exclude the public. So can someone move us in to public excluded?
Happy to do that way.
And I'll second that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, we're now moving into public excluded. The recording is stopping. The recording has stopped.